What's your unique selling point when you're dealing with influencer marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that right now, Fila's selling point in terms of influencers really is to be unique. Right now, I think our space and a lot of our companies that are known as our competitors have kind of saturated the market a bit. So while a ton of other companies may have more lucrative opportunities, Fila provides something that's unique, and we are a brand of first. That's always what we've been known as, whether it's Bjorn Borg wearing stripes for the first time on a tennis court, or Reinhold Messner climbing Mount Everest without an oxygen tank for the first time. We want to provide influencers with their first opportunity. So that's our kind of selling point, is rather than be lucrative, be more impactful.
Define mobile marketing.
Mobile marketing right now is the Wild Wild West. I believe that it is something that you can master. I think that some companies are a bit behind, but mobile marketing is the new out of home. It's literally like right in the palm of somebody's hands. So to me, a billboard is this right now. This is where everybody is, just kind of living in that space, and at the same time, I think one statistic that I saw was Facebook by 2019 is going to be completely accessed by 53% of its users on mobile, and that's no surprise because about 81% of their revenue actually comes from mobile marketing.
Amazing. So with the topics today, one-to-one marketing, device ID, influencer marketing, social media, location intelligence, and geofencing, do you think that these topics should be viewed as a funnel when you are reaching your consumers on mobile?
I think they can be perceived as a funnel, but I don't think they should be the end-all be-all. I think times change rather quickly, and so does the consumer's attention span. Attention span of 8 seconds for Gen Z right now. But at the same time, you may find yourself with a new customer or a new direction, if you look at it from rather 30,000 feet up rather than just, within that funnel. So yeah, I think it's great, but I also don't think a company should be limited to those, options.
Do you think that 8 seconds is a myth?
I don't think it's a myth. I think, just take your own scrolling habits, and it's pretty evident. And I think layouts also tend to kind of cater to that 8 second attention span. I think some platforms have led us to kind of be able to post content and share content longer than 8 seconds due to layouts and whatnot. But I think that there is an opportunity for 8 seconds to be just enough, but maybe a little too quick.
How would you describe the current state of mobile?
Like I said earlier, I think the Wild Wild West right now. I think literally everybody's trying to access it and trying to get through to it, but a screen is not that large. And mobile marketing for me is something that I think every brand should be paying attention to. Nobody's looking up anymore. Everybody's looking down at their phone. So for mobile marketing, for me, I would describe it as the Wild Wild West, and I would describe it as, the land to be conquered.
Where do you think the market pressure is coming from?
That's a tough question to ask, to answer. I think the pressure is really coming from, direct competitors. I think it's coming from changes in platforms. Last year, if we were having this conversation, Snapchat would be top of mind. And now Snapchat is down at about 33%. Most Instagram influencers are using Instagram Story. An influencer, I wouldn't say just Instagram influencers. An influencer is using Instagram Story twice as much as they are Snapchat right now. So again, I think a lot of the pressure is coming from, changes in the landscape. But just as a company probably thinks they got a handle on things, platforms are changing. Consumers' attention span is changing, and their habits are changing as well.
Absolutely. So do you think it's important, to view customers as an omni-channel user?
I don't have an answer for that one.
Okay. What do you think the biggest mobile marketing trend that emerged in 2017 is?
I mean, on the influencer side, I think a lot of these platforms such as Facebook and Instagram are trying to get ahead of FTC regulations and also trying to back their way into a lot of these, influencer deals to help maximize them. So I think, something that's rather unique is, adding the partnership tab on Instagram post or even Instagram story, Facebook as well. But I think the question was the trend, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, on the influencer side, I see the trend as the platforms, making sure that they're okay with the FTC. You can't lead a horse to water and make it drink, but you can get it there. So I don't know if that is viewed as a trend, but for me, that is something that I'm seeing more and more as these platforms again try and stake their claim within these deals, and also make sure that they're covering their behinds as well.
With that future prediction for 2018.
My future prediction?
Yeah.
I think that the micro influencer is going to become more important than the macro influencer. I think the macro influencer hasn't necessarily provided a good example for the micro influencer. And as Gen Z becomes, within by 2020, they're going to be 40% of the population. I foresee micro influencers taking that initiative that macro influencers may have looked over, focusing on the power of their voice amongst maybe a smaller group versus a vast group and wondering if anybody's listening to them. So that's where I think the prediction is a lot more brands will pay attention to the micro influencer rather than a macro influencer.
What's your number?
My number is 50. And 50 leads back to my last point, which is 50, the top 50 influencers on Instagram. They equate to about 2 billion followers between them. That's about 40 posts a month average. And only 7% are in good standing with the FTC. So that means about 93% of their posts are not in good standing with the FTC. So of the top 50 like I said, top 50 influencers on Instagram, not leading a good example. So that's something that I think in 2018 is going to be a little bit more tightened. But I still think there's a world away before we start getting these guys in line to follow rules, because again, it is pretty much the Wild Wild West.